Hi there. I don't know what to do with this webcam. I've got it more over towards blue than yellow, and yet to me, things are looking so yellow. You know, I work really hard with it to try to get it to be just natural, so oh well. This is the second one from 7-5 and the Mayan day remaining for a monkey. Have you noticed how appealing a quiet self-confidence is? We tend to gravitate toward and trust those who are self-confident more than those who are insecure. So let's apply that to the self to see what we find. The first thing to watch out for is confidence in what or which self. We've all seen those whose confidence is strictly based in ego, and that's not such a pretty sight. We want the natural self-confidence of Source, the simple self-knowing that one is divine. There are not words for this. It simply radiates. We wouldn't call the sun self-confident, yet the quiet calm in that shining illustrates what is meant. The sun never doubts itself. So, from the first, we'll be sure our confidence is in and emanates from heart, not ego. That's pretty simple, yet we'd be surprised to find out how many go off track at this step. Then, nothing else they accomplish is of much real worth, having the false foundation as it does. Most of us don't truly feel lovable. Have you noticed? We all have some issues around feeling worthless. Have you noticed and or addressed any of yours? If they haven't come up for you yet, they will. So either get ready or simply start to address them now. They are there, of that you can be sure. Now, why am I so confident about that? Perhaps because I know my audience here. It's partly that. But also because of the way all of us in the West, or at least the USA, are raised. Pretty much. We're programmed to feel insignificant and insufficient for whatever task is at hand. We're trained to rely on experts who spend their lives pursuing their specialty, considering ourselves unworthy to have an opinion on things, unless we're an expert in that thing. This is a part of a behind-the-scenes strategy being employed to keep us all down in lower frequencies, as well as tied up and bound by our many belief systems. We are creators, but instead of self-confidently creating a world we choose to live in, we're being used to create a most imperfect world that keeps us largely enslaved. Now, yes, I realize this is just a story. That's true. It's only one way to look at things as they are. The question is it a useful one? Does it lead to empowerment and more enjoyment of life? I think it does that, giving us a place from which to start to bring about change. Another perspective to take would be that man, him or herself, is responsible for all that is wrong in our world. This is another and a legitimate point of view. Now, how useful is this one? Does it lead to overall empowerment? In the end, they're all stories, and we'll be dropping them all soon enough. It's good to keep that in mind while we play with them. Let's not be too serious about this, nor vest any real belief in our stories. Let's just adopt the most empowering ones we come up with, holding them lightly so we're ready for the better ones to come into view. One way or another, man is a creator who is not aware of his innate creative power, and so, of course, is not using it wisely. One way or another, we create. It's just a matter of doing it consciously, rather than our current unconscious way, which I call being sleeple or sheeple. It leaves us vulnerable to others who are more conscious and aware, using us to create what they desire, which is likely not in our best interests, but theirs. So, for this journal, it's a given that you create a simple fact. We can also call to mind Wayne Dyer's saying that you don't get what you want, you get what you are. It is from our isness, our being, that we create, fashioning things in the image of that. So, what is your current self-image? How do you view the self? Heck, better yet, let's start with how do you define the self? My work calls on you to take on the divine definition of self, not the human one. Who you really are is much closer to consciousness or awareness than it is to anything at all here in 3D. Now you have a presence here, but it is not who you are any more than your car is who you are. It's what you drive, a tool for your use. So, we'll go for the deeper definition of self right from the start. So we've defined self and chosen to accept that by nature we are creators. It's a good start. Since we're working with self-image here, it's quite important to steer clear of ego or mind as much as possible, either of which would love nothing better than to be the self you take yourself to be. Let us be alert for their tricks as we proceed. At some point along this walk, we will need to deal with our sense of insecurity or unworthiness. If we step back, as I always suggest, and get a better or wider view of things, we will likely see that our current self-image is both from and based on mind or ego. It is thus not at all useful to us. That is not what we want to beef up or enhance. Oops, yet another saying for file 13. I don't want the concept of fattening cattle for slaughter in my language anymore. Out the door. So, rather than trying to mend or stitch up our current self-image, I think it better to start afresh. Let us more and more both identify with and come to rely on the inner or higher self, our own inner divinity, rather than our human self or anything visible here in 3D. Identifying with this inner self will do much to bring us back into alignment with our original divine plan, or our higher dimensional being. And it's only as we're identifying with that self that we'll feel confident and worthy of love. The more we come to rely on this inner being, the closer will our relationship with it be. We will open the lines of communication this way. We'll be taught, discovering our own inner tutor, receiving inner tuition or intuition to guide us along the way. This is a lovely side effect of relying on the inner or higher self, or on Source, which will have the same or similar effect. After all, we are truly source beams, light beams totally one with their source, equal to it in quality, if not in quantity. We are that, in other words. As we go in heart, we will find we just know. It may be a new and strange way of being at first, but that's okay. Be patient with you. It's the contrast with the old programming. Now, I'll pause for an important caution here. We all have a dark side. We all have some ego left. You can plan on it showing up during this process, trying to take control. It will try to fool you into thinking it is your own inner self and get you to relying on it. Chances are that at least a time or 12 you'll fall for this. It'll be for just a short while if you're alert, though. Friends, when you take on the belief that anything is possible, it's built in that you will at times be fooled into relying on the false self as the true one. It's an occupational hazard of being this open, this willing to explore and investigate the nature of being. Please don't be afraid of this, nor be ashamed when caught out in such a slip, whether by self or someone else pointing it out. Shame has no more part in our life, period. So when you see it show up, you can immediately know that you're dealing with mind, not the real self. You are also likely dealing with some old programming, coming up to be seen and recognized for what it is, so it can go the way of file 13, out of your life. So rather than being ashamed or made in any way uncomfortable for falling into ego or arrogance for a bit, I suggest we learn to celebrate it. Now, why would that be? Can you imagine? Remember, you cannot deal with what you cannot see. And once we see something, it often fades away or just disappears. Seeing is doing, is action, my friends. It's powerful work. Thus, to be shown something like this is actually precious. It heralds a step you're in the process of making. It wouldn't show up unless you had stirred it from its hidden estate in the subconscious realm, and that's good. If you're alert and on track, it means that it's on its way out. All it takes is recognizing it for what it is, an aspect of the lower self or an old bit of programming, for it to be gone. And you know, when I say gone, I'm not saying get rid of the ego or the lower self. I'm not meaning that. They just have to be put in their place. We have to come into balance. Now, if you've discovered something that runs a bit deep, something that's more habitual, then you may find it takes several episodes of recognizing it at work in your consciousness to completely unseat it. Nonetheless, just seeing it at all is good news. It's a sign of the kind of progress we all want, of cleaning up our act, so to speak. So, are you still with me on this? Are you able to see things from this angle? I know I had done a lot of work on beliefs before I started to see some of these things, so it may be that they won't appear for you immediately. It may take some more gardening work on your garden of belief before your sight comes sufficiently clear to see aspects of your dark side. We've been programmed by religion and society to want to be very good and to fear being bad and the punishment of that. We haven't been trained to be balanced at all, or even to admit or allow that we all have a dark side. Instead, we're trained to hide it and to judge people as being either good or evil based on which side of their being is currently dominant. Yet we all have a dark side, so this is a very superficial way to judge. We have many elements of our old self-image that will have to go, but they must first be recognized before that can happen. And you must be sufficiently open and willing to see and admit that you even have a dark side before you will be shown your own dark side in action. Your inner guidance or intuition will indeed point such things out to you, but not until you've pulled certain weeds from your garden. You can learn a lot by noticing your own self-talk. We normally try to avoid or ignore it, but you might try paying it a bit of attention to see what you can pick up. When you do this from heart, you're in the best position to hear the still, small, interior voice. Remember, you are divine, and as such, you have the right to rely on direct contact to Source. That's who and what you truly are, so it's in there, so to speak. Rely on it. Everyone's journey with this development of the true self-image will be different, but they will all have some things in common, such as being fraught with some serious challenges. You can expect them, and you can also use them to help you rely on your own inner divinity. Thus, you can know that these challenges are really nothing to who you really are. They are well within the abilities of the divine to handle, and that one is you. As we begin more and more to see with eyes of heart vision, we'll find ourselves turning around anything seemingly negative at first glance to realize, even if with hindsight, that it's all for our good, no exceptions. Everything that comes is truly a gift, if we can only learn to see it that way. Stick with heart so you won't be concerned that you're just fooling yourself. In heart, you'll just know and be able to keep the necessary balance and humility to master what's before you there. Now, don't worry about making a fool of yourself now and then. I set a good example for that, right? Can you let go enough to learn to actually see the humor in it? Let go. I used to be a pretty stuffed shirt, kind of stiff spine and all that. Know that you are a mixed package of both the dark and the light. Make peace with that somehow. Accept it. It's just what is. It's in your best interest to do so. One way is to keep an image in the back of your mind of standing for your life review when you cross over, Let that perspective help place 3D things in better context and priority. What is here is ultimately transitory, fleeting, ephemeral. Real as it may seem now, it simply isn't. It won't last the first second in 5D, or even deep in heart, where you're in direct contact with what's real. What others think of you has to be less and less and less important to you. You'll likely be tested this way too, or that's how it'll seem. The challenges will come up. If you're willing to grapple with your dark side, it'll show its face now and again to try to gain ascendancy. But you won't long allow that. You'll be better and quicker at picking that up and cutting it off at the pass. And each time you do, you will be that much more into your own inner or higher self. You'll be reinforcing the true divine identity in favor of the false self that's dying out. Slow or fast is largely, but not totally, up to you. You do have guides or angels or even a higher self that have some say in the matter. So be a good team player. Only ego will want to take control. Watch for it. Know who you are. That's the bottom line here. As we are wise as serpents and harmless as doves, we'll make the progress we desire. But remember, it's not that you're in any way imperfect now. You aren't. Take that in. Accept it for now on faith, if you must, or on probation. But do take it in. You are perfect already. No growth or development of the self is necessary. No, instead, what we're doing is cleaning off the grime and goo of the ages from our own already perfect inner being or higher self. That perfection currently exists in the simultaneous now. How could it not? It isn't far off in the future somewhere, so don't fall for that mind trap. It's so very 3D. Just know that your perfection is right now. It's just a matter of uncovering that, or of attuning to it, coming into alignment with it. You're in process of raising your frequency so that you'll vibrate in tune with the divine, the one that you already are. And when you see the awesome beauty of that one, you'll be shocked. You have never seen something so beautiful as to look into the face of your own inner self. She looks just like you in this life, only perfected, with eyes of the divine. It is stunning. I was graced to see that one once. It's something you'll never forget. And this is you. Your work now is accepting that, to accept your own native divine nature, to own it, to identify with that. And you can do it. It'll be odd. You'll stumble now and then along the way. Maybe often, but so what? Get to the so what point so you can say it with real gusto and humor. So what? Big deal. Who cares? Remember, your true attitudes are those of the divine. And the divine one isn't at all shocked by any elements of your dark side. The goal here is not perfection. It is balance, a divine balance that will bring all things into perfect alignment, so that one day we will see how even our flaws were really our assets. It all depends. Be flexible, be able to flow, and take different perspectives on things. Don't feel locked down or imprisoned in any way. That's over. You are not. That's just a story, one we have all outgrown by now. You can literally just brush it away. Remember, you are divine. Rely on that. Fall back on it. Know who you truly are. From all of this, your true self, capital S, confidence will naturally appear in the natural flow of things. It will take care of itself as you tend to what's before you, staying ever in your now. In your now, the magical now moment, we have access to simply everything, everywhere, every when. Just like when we're in heart, same thing. So let's ditch the lousy self-image, friends, in favor of the divine one. Let's uncover who and what we really are and let that shine. Namaste.